Hello, Jazzy people, and welcome to the Jazz Beam channel. My name is Stacey Allen, and we shine the spotlight on professional and creative people. And today we are shining a spotlight on someone very creative. And I'll let my co-host, Myron Fisher, introduce him to you. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Myron Benjamin Blakey Fisher, host of the Jazz Bing Table Talk. Hey, we have a fantastic guest for you today. Known this brother for a little while. As always, I always know some of the best people in the world, some of the most talented people in the world, and he is absolutely no exception. This brother by the name of Herb Newsome. Welcome to the show, Herb.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having
Welcome,
me.
Herb. And
Yes.
Myron, you forgot to add, the best looking people too.
Oh yeah, well
Okay.
yeah. I know the best people too.
Yes.
Everybody
Okay.
good looking. I tell you.
Okay.
Oh, Herb. Now I remember the first time I saw you was at Penn State. You and Charles Moss, you all were doing fences. Um, and I'm gonna tell you, because of that show, I really fell in love with fences, man. Tell me, how do you feel about the August Wilson series? What makes you thrive on August Wilson?
Um, well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be on here with you guys to chat about some things. Um, August Wilson. I first got introduced to August Wilson by my friend Michael Rosenthal in undergrad. I was a sophomore in college, and he introduced me to a monologue from Fences from Corey. So Fences has this really interesting journey in my life. So I did this Corey monologue during my undergrad and read the play, and I was amazed that there's a writer, and he's like, well, he has a couple other plays. And at this point, the cycle wasn't complete, and this was like around 1997, I believe. And so I read the monologue and I worked on the monologue, and it was great. It was the monologue that actually I used to get me into graduate school. Was one of the pieces. So really started there and started close to my heart. But once I got to grad school, I met Charles Dumas. And Charles Dumas is a professor who just won he just received the Living Legends Award at the National Black Theater Festival this past
Hey,
festival a couple weeks ago, which is really amazing. So shout out to Charles Dumas. And he was a professor there, and they were doing a production of The Piano Lesson, and I was cast in that. So I got to do my very first August Wilson play um, at Penn State as a graduate student, and I played Lyman in The Piano Lesson. And that was my first introduction to the words. And it was such a beautiful, wonderful experience. At that point, it was the best show I'd ever done in my life. To this day, it's still one of the most memorable shows I ever did in my life. My very first August Wilson play, to really feel the spirit of that show. And August is such a brilliant writer. He's so deep. His stories and his words resonate with people across cultures. And Piano Lesson was no different. And so from Piano Lesson, the very next thing I believe I did Jitney next at a theater once I had graduated. And then I did that production of Fences at Pennsylvania Center Stage that you saw, which was that was probably the most magical production I've probably ever been in my life. Just the cast, the aura around it, the feel behind it. It was the same year, I believe, that August Wilson had left us and joined the Ancestors. So for a lot of reasons, it was such a spiritual production and a very good play. And the cycle kind of like completed itself, or not fully completed itself. But this past summer, I was at the Lyric Repertory Theater playing Troy and Maxim in Fences, where I spent the summer playing Troy. And so it started off as Corey. I went to Lions, and then I ended up playing Troy. So it's been a nice little kind of full circle moment. It's a little bit of a sort of surreal moment to go kind of through that cycle and play those characters in that play, Fences, especially to think of it from Corey's point of view, one son's point of view, then another son's point of view, and then having to play Troy and thinking of it from his point of view was so enlightening in that sense. But August is one of those artists that are really just near and dear to my heart. I in addition to those three plays, I also was in Radio Golf.
yes, I
From
remember.
yep, performed in Radio Golf as well. And so, and also Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And I played Levy in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Roosevelt Hicks in Radio Golf. So I've done 5 of the cycle. I'm going to complete the cycle at some point in life. That's the goal, actually. So so I have 2 fences and the rest of those plays. But August is definitely a real a big part of my life. Just in his words and his writing, and you know, as a playwright, he's definitely influenced my writing as well. In some of the shows I've done, people have said, you know, that this is almost, I can hear August Wilson in there. So you definitely hear the influence of August Wilson. And it's a blessing because I've been able to work in Pittsburgh a lot. And so I call Pittsburgh my second home. I go out there at least once a year to do some kind of work ever since 2007, you know. And so, you know, going to Pittsburgh, actually living in the Hill District at a friend's house, every time I go there, and just being around the Pittsburgh folks and actors and creators, and just living in the Hill District, you get a real sense of, you know, what it's like to be around the people August was writing about. And for a long time, I would go to the jitney station and go call and get a jitney cab. Unfortunately, the jitney station is no longer there, but that was a great thing. And I remember the first time I had to go use it, and I went in and I opened the door. I said, "Hey, can I get a car going to East Liberty?" And as soon as I opened that door, I seen every character in that play, and I was like, "This is amazing." I mean, he nailed it. It was an amazing experience. But yeah, August is the man, yo. You know, so.
Yes, and you're a playwright in your own right. I did see. Last time I had the opportunity to go down to the National Black Theater Festival, you had a play showing down there.
Yeah. Yeah, that play was Revenge of a King. It's a hip hop musical based on the story of Shakespeare's Hamlet. So I took Hamlet and I kind of updated it, remixed it, added hip hop music, added hip hop dance, spoken word poetry, and really told the story set in the inner city of New York City. Basically telling the story of a young guy who's kind of got some troubles and is trying to figure out life, you know. So that was really great. That production, I think I started that in 2004 for the first production I ever did. On my little waiter salary, I spent $4,000 of the money I didn't have to put it on at the Producers Club on 44th Street. It was a really great, successful production. I remember Woody King came to the show, and I was so hyped because Woody King came to see my show. I was like, this is great, in this little 60-seat black box theater. But Woody King came to see the show, and he was really, really, really impressed by it. And eventually, you know, we brought it to the Black Theater Festival, and it got a chance to be done at theaters across the country. The Black Theater Troupe in Phoenix, the Cincinnati Black Rep, the Paul Robeson Theater in Buffalo, New York, Tennessee State. A bunch of high schools have done the show, and it even got accepted into the Grahamstown National Arts Festival in South Africa, which is, I think, the 3rd largest arts festival in the world. So we actually took it down there, and we're able to share this New York City American hip hop, you know, culture with those down in South Africa, and they loved the show, which is really, really great. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, okay. And Woody King, of course, he's the godfather of Black theater, man. I've never had the opportunity to work with him, but I knew him. I picked him up at the airport, and we went over to Ritter's to have breakfast one morning. I got a chance to sit down and talk with him.
Director, and I'm like, and the main producer, main money guy, and I'm sitting there like, whew. And I went and I proceeded to do my audition, and I was terrible. And I walked out of that audition knowing like, wow, that was probably the best I ever had. But I was so nervous going in, specifically more so not because of the star director or the amount of people. It was I was not prepared, and I knew I wasn't prepared to do my best. And then seeing that many people, it just intimidated me. It was just like, wow, I wasn't going to put my best foot forward. But nowadays, I think as an artist, as long as you work and you prepare, and you go in with the idea that I'm going to go in and do the best I can right now on this day, right? And then you do it, you leave it on the floor, and you walk away. That's the best way to me to approach it, because sometimes you might wake up, you know, your cat has to go to the vet, you know. You mean you got a bad phone call, you know, you just lost something, you know, you had no accident that morning. Crazy things can go on in life, and then you got to go in an audition. right? So how are you supposed to focus if you're prepared, really to really go in and do your best when you had a morning like that? Well, sometimes you can't be too hard on yourself. You got to say, you know what? I'm just going to go and do the best I can today at the place that I'm at, and then let it be. And then it's going to fall where it lies. If the job is yours, the job is yours. If it's not meant to be. You'll get the next one. You know what I mean? So that's sort of how I kind of my mental how I mentally deal with those things. You know, do nerves creep in sometimes, possibly, but they're it's very rare that that happens nowadays. So.
Oh, okay. So how about your writing? Have you written anything lately, or is it writing more
Well,
clear stuff?
now I have a bunch of things that I've written.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of things that I've written, and I could continually write. This summer at the Lyric Rep, I was able to perform my one-man show, Freeman in Paris, which I wrote.
Oh,
And
okay.
Freeman in Paris is it's a one-man show about bebop era jazz musicians
Mm-hmm.
in the 1950s, and the struggle of these jazz musicians trying to make it in an America that really is not set up for them.
Now that
And so
sounds interesting. Yeah, I would like
yeah,
that. Mm-hmm.
and so in the show, I played 10 characters, all five members of the band. Lead trumpet player's mother, Miles Davis makes an appearance, and also within the show, because it's a jazz show, I decided that when I did this the first time, I was like, I need to play jazz music. So I learned to play a number of different instruments, and so there's live jazz music throughout the show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where that's a show I had written years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But someone when I got hired at this theater, they found out I did one-man shows, and he said, "Tell me about this. Tell me about this thing." So I gave him a bunch of them, and they read that piece, and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I think we need to do this. Our audience would really love this show." And so got a chance to kind of revive this show that I've done years ago, and work with
How
the
long is
different.
the one man show? Really quick. How long is the one man show?
It's about an hour and 20 minutes.
Hour and 20. Okay.
Yeah, so about
It's
an hour and
it's
20 minutes.
me and Myron, just before we got on the set, we were talking about a one man show, weren't we, Myron? Myron's getting
Yes.
ready to do a one man show,
Oh,
right,
cool.
Myron?
Yes, and she's getting ready to write it.
Yeah, we
Oh,
were just
awesome.
talking about that. Yeah, so that's cool. I would
That's
love
great.
to see yours. That's cool, Herb. I would really love to see that one about the jazz.
You
So,
mentioned you play a lot of instruments. I do remember watching you and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom with playing Levy. You
Mhm.
played the trumpet then, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Played the
Yeah.
trumpet at that time. I remember that.
Yeah, I played the trumpet from the 4th grade to the 12th grade, so that was like my instrument that I played.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first read Levy, I was like, Myron's Black Bottom. I'm like, I gotta play this character. I play the trumpet. I'm a trumpet player. So thankfully, I got to do that with Country Repertory Theater, where Dr. Lilly directed me in that show. And I was able to play in that show. So I played the trumpet. I had played a little bit of piano. I took like piano lab in like the 6th and 7th grade, so I knew how to do that, and I knew how to read music. But when I did Freeman in Paris, I was like, okay, well, I'll play the trumpet in it. That's cool. The main character's a trumpet player. It works. But then I'm like, oh, I could play the piano a little bit. Maybe I'll play a piano song. Then I thought, and I always do this with one-man shows and like things I create. I'm like, I like to give myself really big challenges. And so I was like, I'm gonna play every instrument of all the 5 band members. And so I went out and literally ordered a saxophone, got delivered to my house. I ordered an upright bass, it got delivered to my house. And drums, I got rhythm, so I can dabble on a drum set, play djembe drums and play a drum kit. So I'm like, I got no problem. I can figure out how to play some jazz drumming. So I ordered all the instruments, and then I proceeded to learn. I actually Ernest McCarty,
My
who's
man.
my man from Pittsburgh, who's a phenomenal jazz bassist, actually taught me. I was actually directing his play, Journey of the Spirits, at
What?
Country Repertory Theater, and I was helping. It was a new play, so I was helping him to. I was hired because I was a writer, and I was helping him kind of craft the story, helping him to kind of sort of co-write, pseudo-write the play with him. And as I was developing the play, he said to me one day, he goes, "Man, I really like your work. I really appreciate it." He said, "What else do you do? What else are you writing?" And I said, I'm writing this show about bebop era jazz musicians. And he goes, "What?" He goes, "I'm a jazz musician. I play the bass." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, and so I told him about it. And at the time, he was the artistic director of the New Horizons Theater. And he was like, "I'm going to do your show next year in my season." I was like, "Whoa, okay." I mean, my play wasn't fully written, but he's like, I like your work. I appreciate you. I'm going to do your show. And I was like, great. So when they came up with this idea to play all these instruments, I'm like, oh, he's a jazz bassist. So I was like, Ernest, can I come over your house? And so I came over his house. He taught me how to play bass and, a couple tricks on the bass. And I had a friend who played the saxophone in New York. He's actually a sax player. So he taught me how to play sax. And so in the show, I played John Coltrane's Alabama on the saxophone. I play Thelonious Monk's Crepuscule with Nelly on the piano. And I play various songs, things on the trumpet. And then in the middle of the play, there's a moment where the musicians go over to Paris and for the very first time and experience what it's like for the African-American artists to go to Paris and not experience racism and segregation for the first time in their lives. And a lot of people stayed, but these characters came back, and then the play deals with what happens when they come back. But when they're over in Paris, they're playing a set, and between sets, the manager comes in and says, hey, there's somebody who's been listening to you and wants you to sit in with you on the next set, and that person is Miles Davis. And so the next thing you see is the band up on stage playing Miles Davis's Milestones with Miles Davis. So you'll see me play trumpet as Carter Freeman, you'll see me play trumpet as Miles Davis, and then I solo on all the other instruments.
Wow.
And so that's how that sort of gets infused into the
Spirits. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Journey of the Spirits. Yeah.
You were in Journey of the Spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And actually, you were in the very first play I directed at Kuntu Repertory. The very first job in Pittsburgh was Kuntu Repertory's production of Sing Black Hammer, and Ben was in there too.
We talked about that before you came on too.
Oh, yeah.
That was my next question. That's the baddest scene change I ever had. We did. You directed. Tell us how you came up with that scene change, man.
So Sing Black Hammer is basically the story of a group like the Supremes, trying to make it big, and the Diana Ross character falls in love with a guy that works in this factory, and there's this. It goes from like a bar to a house to this factory where there's a big blast furnace, and the scene designer designed this huge blast furnace, and we had to transition, I believe, from the bar to the blast furnace. Yeah. And sometimes with scene design and transitions, the audience has to sit and wait in the audience while the scene is being changed. And I always try to figure out inventive ways to kind of make that happen, as opposed to just like throwing on some music and then it happens and then lights up. And so one of the things we did for the final moment of that of the play, of that scene in the bar, immediately as soon as that final note hit, we transitioned from that into the factory with this giant blast furnace that we had to roll out and put center. And so instead of so what I decided to do is I decided to dress all the stagehands in steelworkers gear, right? And everybody had workers outfits on. And so as the workers came on, they're moving things. And so from the very jump, you see instantly we transitioned right into that factory where people were like having hitting hammers on anvils, and there's so much stimulus to look at as you seen like the workers literally calling things across, and it was just so much eye candy as you transition from a bar into this factory where there's this giant blast furnace and sound and steam coming out. And it was really fun to do instead of just having a regular old okay, here's some music, the scene, people come on, they move the set. It was sort of a way where the bar was here and it just sort of like opened, and like there was a life happening from the end of that scene. The moment just really started to evolve, and every single moment and every second you just started seeing people move and things happening. And even some of the actors in the play, I also dressed them and they assisted in being some of the steel workers. So it was really fun. It was a really fun thing, and when it all came about in tech, it was a great experience. So I appreciate that, Ben.
It was. Hey, like I said, man, I've never seen anything like it. And I've seen some great sets. Kenny Ellis, did a lot of designing of the sets.
Yeah.
For Kuntu, and he's a great guy. But the way you directed that, man, was just awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah, he was just talking about how that was the best set he's ever been on. He was just talking about that change, which was great.
Now, speaking of Ernest, Ernest doesn't only do jazz. He plays keyboards. He plays that. He does He's a playwright, of course. He's an Emmy Award. In fact, the first play that I ever did was Ernest McCarty. Was one of his plays, Cosmic Night.
Yeah. And he's also a brilliant painter,
Yes.
visual artist. He has paintings. You go to his house, you say, "Oh, that's an amazing painting." You know, it's one of mine. You know, so it's really he's a really one of those. He's a true Renaissance man, and such a great spirit to be around. He's one of those lovers of life. He just loves life, and he likes to gobble up life. You know, and I love people like that.
And as far as the different talents, I kind of see you two as kind of the same. You know, all of your different talents. So you build sets, you design sets, you act, you direct.
You are creative. You do it all. You
Man,
do it all. Yeah.
I'm just proud to know you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Talent right there.
I'm just inquisitive. And my dad always told me, he's like, if you don't know how to do something, he's like, if he doesn't know how to do something, he's like, give me 2 days. I'll come back in 2 days and I'll be able to do it. And that was sort of his mentality. And my dad had a 6th grade education, you know, didn't go to high school, didn't graduate high school, grew up in the South, moved to New York when he was 15 and just 16 years old, I believe, and just started working on the docks. You know what I mean? But with no education, the man was brilliant. He was a barber. He could play the guitar. He was a phenomenal shortstop. You know, he's an athlete.
Wow.
He was a visual artist. He could paint. He could fix cars. He could do anything. You know,
you got a nice story. Yeah, that's great. Your history too.
Yeah, and he just instilled in us, you know, the idea that if you don't know how to do it, and he always said you can never get too much knowledge. Never have too much knowledge. Even though he wasn't educated, he really pushed education within my family. And you know, we grew up in the projects in Staten Island, New York, right in the hood. I was one of 11. Him and my mom had 11 kids. Out of the 11 kids, there are 8 kids with college degrees. There are 3 kids with master's degrees, and my little sister is about to finish up her PhD. That's
wow. That's great.
From where we are. So like, I'm proud of my parents. I'm proud of every single one of my siblings for knowing where we came from to kind of come out of that. But it really started with my mom and my dad, who just really, you know, my mom didn't even graduate high school. She went to high school, but she didn't graduate high school. But they always made sure that those are things that we need to do. And they didn't care if we were going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a garbage man, whatever. They said, you can be whatever you want to be. Just be the best at it. Whatever you choose to do, we don't care. Just be the best at it. And so the idea of trying to be the best at whatever it is you choose to do, and then the idea that like, if I don't know how to do it, give me 2 days, I'll come back and I'll learn it. That sort of inquisitive mind, that always stuck with me. And so for me, I just want to learn everything. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. If I see something somebody does, I'm like, ooh, I admire that. I think that's amazing. And then I'm like, I'm gonna learn how to do that. And I'll go ahead and try to learn how to do it, just because that's just kind of where my mind
wow works. That's talent right there,
my brother.
Let's give him a fun question. Let's give him something fun. Let's see.
All right.
Yeah, let's give you something fun and way off track. How about let's see. Now tell us 3 things that's always in your fridge. I always want to know that. Eliminate milk and eggs. Eliminate 3 things that's always in your fridge.
See, I was about to say eggs. I eat eggs every single day. All right, nope. So 3 things in my fridge right now. I have beer in my fridge.
Okay.
I'm a bartender on the side. When I'm not an artist, I bartend. I don't drink often, but I do have definitely beer because I like to entertain as well. So you come in, you can have a cocktail, you can have a beer. So there's always gonna be some beer.
Okay, interesting.
All right, so beer. I do have avocados. I love avocados. I live on the West Coast. Avocados is kind of a big thing for me there. So beer, avocados, and ice cream. I love ice cream. So that's like my favorite dessert. So
what's your favorite flavor in ice cream? Yeah.
Pistachio.
Pistachio. Never had that. Okay.
Oh, it's amazing. Pistachio followed by mint chocolate chip. And I went to I was in Italy, and I went to Venice for the first time in Italy, and I'm half Italian. And so I'm like, I'm in the motherland, right? I've been to Africa, South Africa. I'm like, I'm in the motherland. I go to Italy, I'm in the motherland. My mom's Italian. I remember stopping out of our little hotel, and we went down, and there was a shop that was selling gelato. And I was like, ooh, gelato. And I ate pistachio gelato, I tell you, this was the best thing I ever tasted in my life. Like every single time, that single day, I stopped at 4 gelato shops and got ice cream. Because every time we go on our travels, visiting, whatever, touristy things, whatever, I see a gelato shop, I jump in, get me a pistachio gelato. Go to the next one. It was
I think
gelato.
you just like the color green because both of those ice creams are green, right?
Well, they're green. Well, they are green.
Yeah.
Blue's my favorite. Blue's my favorite color, though. You know,
Okay.
but I like the flavor of mint and pistachios. I mean, I have a whole big bucket of pistachios right over there. You know,
Okay.
little snack thing. So, you know.
Okay. That was interesting. So what's next? What you got next? Tell us what's next. What you
All right. So
planning
next
for?
next up on the books, I'm going to be directing a play in January at the Black Theater Troupe in Phoenix with David Hemphill. I'll be directing my very first August Wilson play. Joe Turner's Come and Gone.
Wow. Okay.
Very excited about that. And that was a switch. I was supposed to direct a play called Mr. Ricky Has a Meeting, which was about Branch Rickey and Jackie Robinson and sort of their relationship and circumstances about him coming about to be on the Dodgers. But through circumstances, they had to change the play. And he's like, I really had to change the play. I understand if you don't want to direct the show, it's a hard show to direct, but we have the rights to Joe Turner's Come and Gone. And then my face just lit up. I was like, yes, my first August Wilson play. And so I'm very excited to take on that challenge. Like I said, I've done 5 August. I've done 6 productions of August Wilson. I've been in 5 of the plays. I actually directed a reading of Joe Turner's during the pandemic for a group out in New York, which was really awesome. And so I was able to kind of like dig into that play a little bit there. So it's going to be great for me to kind of really sink my teeth into the very first August Wilson play. And man, wait till we get to that Juba. Ooh. You see what I got ready for that Juba. It's gonna be great. But yeah, that's the next thing. That's the next thing on the docket. Is to go to there to direct that play. And then now I'm just back in the like I said, I just got back in LA yesterday. I'm just gonna start auditioning and see what's up. If this play comes through, and I might be heading back east to work on a show for a couple months, and that'll be the next thing. In the meantime, you always got to be auditioning, writing, developing some things. I'm actually helping a friend with a film he wrote, trying to help develop that, raise some funds for that, and things like that. So my hand is always doing a little something outside of win the job. Not specifically have a job. I always feel like you got to create the work for yourself. So you can't overextend yourself, but at the same time, there's always a bunch of little things that are always brewing. One of those things are brewing, they come to fruition sooner than later.
So if you come to Pittsburgh, you must visit. You can help me.
Okay.
I can surely. Yeah. I love to be educated, so I would love some advice. You can come help us.
Yeah. Well,
so don't forget.
I come to Pittsburgh at least 3 times a year, I think.
Okay, that's great.
I'm always in Pittsburgh. Usually I work for New Horizons Theater, doing a bunch of things for them.
Okay.
So yeah. So next time I do know when I'm coming, I'll give you guys a shout.
Let me know. Yep. Let us know. Tell Myron. Yep. We'll get you. Okay.
When did you move to LA?
I moved 8 years ago, I believe. Okay. Yep. So well, it's like 2014. Yeah.
You ever run into Ben Kane out there?
I've never run into Ben Kane. I've run into Monte Russell. Okay. I've seen him. Nathan James lives out here, so I see Nathan James. There's some Pittsburghers out here, but I haven't run into Ben Kane yet. So.
Okay, Nathan James, and those are 2 other great cats, man. Great cats, talented people, talented. Exactly. And I really appreciate you giving the time. But I love you like a brother as well.
Yeah, man. Absolutely,
thank you so much. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for gracing Jazz Bean Entertainment with all your knowledge and telling us about all your many, many blessings and more to come. And we're so happy, and I'm so honored to meet you. And you're going to help our show skyrocket just with your presence. It's just going to skyrocket with your presence.
Take off, baby. Take off.
Thank you so much. And Remember to subscribe, and good night, everyone. You guys
night,
don't go
everybody.
anywhere yet. Good night,
Thank you.
everyone. Really quick.
Everyone, thank you again, Herb. We appreciate you.